Hello, everyone. We are going to get started. My name is Andy. I work here on the Aliyah engagement team. We assist people who are first starting out their Aliyah application. We're helping you get the ball rolling with your application process. And with me today is the lovely Rivka. She is my colleague here at the Engagement Center, and we will be talking about the next steps. You've opened your application. Now what? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Just jump scare warning. I have a very funny background. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but just as a heads up. All right, here we go. All right. Is my screen showing up okay? Look like it? All right. Cool. So the next steps in your Aliyah process. Let's get started. So this is our contact information for the Aliyah Engagement Center. We are the Aliyah hotline. Our main number is the one that you see here, 1-866-425-4924. That is a toll-free number. We also do have a WhatsApp as well that you can message at any time with any questions, and our email as well, aliyah@nbn.org.il. Okay, so you can break down the Aliyah application process into a few steps. In general, the application process takes anywhere from 4 to 8 months. Okay, so the first thing, which I think everyone on this webinar has already done, is you started the online Aliyah application. So now the next step is going through all of the required documents. There are a few documents that are universal and typically required of everyone applying for Aliyah. There's some, that may differ case by case, but we'll go through the general list of documents. Once you have all of those documents together, the next step is interviewing with the Jewish agency, or the Zochnut in Hebrew. They are the final authority on Aliyah outside of Israel. They have offices all over the world and a number of offices across North America, and they're arranged by region. So at the end of this process, you'd get in touch with your regional um, Jewish agency, Shaliach. Once you receive approval from them after that interview, then you are ready to book your Aliyah flight and complete the process. Okay, so as you can see, this is our website, our homepage. Our site is nbn.org.il, and that is where you will access your Aliyah application at the top right-hand side of the screen where it says log into my application. You click there, you put in your email address, and every time you log in, you get a new 6-digit code. So there's no passwords to remember. Then once you're inside of your application portal, it'll take you, if you've completed the questionnaire, it'll say 100% on your homepage of the portal. And if not, then you'll see these 4 sections. Each section needs to be completed in order to move on to next steps. Get an Aliyah advisor to have all the correct documents populated in your document portal. So if there's any questions, if you haven't completed any of these sections yet, or if there's any technical issues, always reach out to us and we are happy to help. So I also want to talk about the different types of statuses, for people making Aliyah. So for a lot of people, you're going to be an Ole Hadash, which means you are a first-time Israeli citizen. You don't have any like background, in terms of having Israeli citizenship already. The second status that we'll go over today is what's called an Ezra Choleh. That means that you were born outside of Israel to one or two Israeli parents, which usually means that you've inherited citizenship from your parents, and you should be holding an Israeli passport. And if this is you and you don't have an Israeli passport, then we'll help you figure out how to get one. Then the third is a Katin Choser. This is someone that was born in Israel and left as a child before the age of 14. And so you're already Israeli, and you lived in Israel, whether it was for 1 year or a few years, and now you're coming back and you're entitled to basically all of the same benefits as somebody getting citizenship for the first time. Same thing goes for Israel. Lastly, we've got Lishkata Kesher. This is somebody that was born in the former Soviet Union, left after 1990. A few of the document requirements are a little bit different for this specific status, but we'll help you through every step of it. Okay, so these are some of the universally required documents. A valid passport, you need that to get on the plane. Civil documentation with apostilles. These are vital records mainly, birth certificates, marriage certificates, name change certificates, divorce, death certificates, etc. And the apostille, we'll go over what that is in a sec, is a special type of certification for documents that are going to be used internationally. The proof of Judaism, a unique document to the excuse me, to the Israeli immigration process. This is going to be, in most cases, in all cases, a letter from a congregational rabbi just confirming your Jewish background under the law of return, which dictates who can make aliyah. A criminal background check with apostille with a special certification. We'll go over how to do that. If you're in the States, it's an FBI check. If you're in Canada, it's an RCMP check. The personal status affidavit, a newer document that's required in the Aliyah process. It's confirming, essentially confirming your marital status at the time of Aliyah. And then there's a few like Jewish agency forms to print and fill out, and you'll be able to do that from your document portal. Okay, so civil documents that are going to be required for the Aliyah process. So like I said, first thing, birth certificate. Also adoption records, marriage, divorce, death certificates, legal name changes. Um, if you were born in a country where you had to leave documentation behind, or there's no way to get, let's say, like your birth certificate reissued. Another thing to definitely have on hand, obviously, everything is everything is approved by the Jewish agency. But if you're in that situation, things like naturalization certificates will also be required. Um, Please note that your name on your birth certificate has to match the name on your passport. Otherwise, you're gonna have to change one of those before making Aliyah. So now that you're early in the process, check on that. Check on that now. Okay. So, the documents must be originals, not a photocopy. This doesn't mean it needs to be the birth certificate that you got when you were born. It just means that it needs to be directly issued from a vital records office. This vital check is a really great resource for this. Most states, if not all, use vital check, and it's very easy to use, and they have great customer service as well. Or you can go to the local vital records office. So, for example, down here, if you need to order something from Vital Records in New York, just Google it, and it's usually like the first or second result that comes up. And then this is the Vital Check homepage. Which, again, cannot recommend enough. And now the one of the questions that we get most here, what is an apostille? So it's an international certification of authenticity. It's certifying the authenticity of the signatures from public officials on these documents. So in the US, it's issued by the Secretary of State for whichever state that the document was originally issued in. So for example, I'm from Florida. I was born in Florida. When I made Aliyah, I had to send my birth certificate to the Secretary of State's office in Tallahassee, in the capital of Florida. They put that apostille, they staple it onto to my birth certificate and sent it back, and it was ready to go. So it's something important to note that the state where the document was issued is the only state that can attach these apostilles. And the same is also true for Canada. Only the provincial authority where the document was originally issued can issue this apostille. Sometimes in certain provinces, global affairs can issue the apostille. So again, when in doubt, call us and we'll help you see where to get that certification from. So, Again, as an example, if you're in the US and you're going to the state's website to figure out how to get the apostille. So for me, again, born in Florida, go to the Florida Department of State website. They usually have a search bar on every state website. Put in apostille, it should take you directly to the page that you need. If not, we have most of these pages saved at the engagement center. So if you're not able to find it or you're having trouble, let us know, and we can usually just send the direct link. And then here is the page for Canadian apostilles. The apostille system in Canada is pretty new. I think it's only been in place about a year and a half now. So it's not a perfect system yet, but they have the government has actually a really great comprehensive site on how to get apostilles, where to send your documents for different for different things. So um, we will, if you are looking to get apostilles on Canadian documents, you don't know where to look, let us know and we'll send you this page. Okay. Now, sometimes getting apostilles on these documents is just an extra hassle that you don't have the spoons for, that you just don't have the energy for. And that's okay. Or if you're working with a lot of documents, or you're on, like a time crunch, apostille services are really convenient. You send them your original documents, and they do the legwork of getting the apostilles for you. So two popular ones that our Olim have worked with, they've had good experiences with is the EZTR International Notary and Apostille Service and the Apostille Co. For Canada, there is one that we know of so far that has started, helping people with Canadian documents and getting apostilles in Canada. That is the International Documents Canada, or IDocs, and there might be more to come in the future, but for now, we know this one. This one is available for Canadian Olim. Okay, so now the elusive proof of Judaism letter. So there are a lot of questions on this. There are a lot of questions of, like, well, I know I'm Jewish. How do I, like, what am I supposed to provide? Like, what do I show? Do I send them my, like, bar mitzvah certificate? Do I send them like my baby naming, certificate? So the universal requirement here is a letter from a congregational rabbi. Any denomination is fine, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, as long as they are currently leading a congregation and they are a member of the rabbinic association for whichever denomination that they're representing. The RA for conservative, the Rabbinical Council of America for Orthodox. If you ask them, if you're unsure, the rabbi that you're talking to, should know if they are affiliated with these organizations. Now, basically, the template for this, there's no official template, and if you find one online, that's an old one, so don't use that. Essentially, it needs to say, I, Rabbi X, know this person, your legal name here, to be Jewish, and then how you're Jewish, whether it's born to a Jewish parent on either side, a Jewish grandparent, um, whatever the case may be, or if you've converted to Judaism. There's a slightly different format for the letter that we can go through, but that's essentially what it needs to say, and it needs to include how the rabbi knows you. So if you've been part of their congregation for years, that's what it'll say. If you've never stepped foot in a synagogue, but you've approached this rabbi, because you want to make aliyah, that's what it'll say. And again, when in doubt, call us. You can always call the Jewish agency as well. Okay, so we just went over this a little bit. You're not affiliated, you don't know a rabbi, it's not a problem. So you're not required to be a practicing member of a congregation. Just search local congregations, search the closest ones near you, and you'll meet them, have a conversation with them. Sometimes they'll want to see different kinds of documentation, like if anyone in the family was married religiously and they've got a ketubah, they've got a religious marriage certificate, or if anyone, grandparents, great grandparents are married in Jewish cemeteries. These are physical documents that a rabbi might want to see. Each one might have, their own additional questions, their own additional documentation that they might want. But just to give you an idea, that's usually what they ask for. Okay, and for those that have converted for Judaism, like I said, it's a slightly different template. So all conversions from Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox are all conversion programs are accepted. You do want to make sure that the specific program that you did is recognized. So that's definitely worth a phone call to the Jewish agency. You'll need to provide your conversion certificate, and then you'll also need to provide a rabbi's letter describing the process. So this isn't going to include like the timeline, relevant dates, if there was a course syllabus, of what you learned and when. That's great to include a description of your community involvement during the conversion process and after the conversion process is also something that will be required. And then there's also a personal essay on your decision to convert to Judaism, how that went. That's also part of this packet of proof of Judaism documentation if you have converted to Judaism. Um, yeah, and again, if there are any questions, if you maybe your conversion process and your documents don't fit into this box so neatly, let us know and we can walk you through what can be done. Okay, so now the criminal background check. So you're going to need a criminal background check for whichever country you have lived in for more than a year. So if if you've lived in the US for your whole life, but you studied abroad in Italy, for a year, wouldn't that be nice? You're going to need a US FBI criminal background check, additionally, an Italian background check. There's actually a really good website. If you're having issues finding background check, processes for other countries, let us know. Actually, the Canadian government put out a very great search tool where you put in the country and then it tells you exactly how to get that background check. So one thing to keep in mind, since everyone's kind of at the beginning of their Aliyah process here, this is a very time-sensitive document. It's only good for 6 months from the day that it's issued. It also needs an apostille, but a higher level apostille than vital records. So for the U.S., basically you go get fingerprinted, you get your FBI check emailed to you, you print that out, and you send it to the to the Department of State in Washington, D.C. And again, you kind of have to time this carefully. You'll usually be working directly with your Aliyah advisor, or with your permanent advisor at this point, so they can kind of help you gauge, when to get this, just to maximize your chances of only having to do the background check like once or twice max to fit your Aliyah timeline and your goal arrival date in Israel. If you have to redo it, it's not a big deal. And then for Canada, you'll need an RCMP check, and you get the apostille from Global Affairs. Israeli citizens, something to note, if you are an Israel Choleh, like you were born outside of Israel to an Israeli parent, or you are a Katin Choser, born in Israel and are now returning, you do not need to present background checks because you're already in the Israeli system and they do that internally. Um, yeah, and again, any questions on background checks, how to get background checks, let us know. So now you have completed all of your document requirements. You are probably working with your permanent Aliyah advisor, like I had mentioned before. It's time to have your Jewish agency interview. So, like I said, there are Jewish agency offices across the world, across North America. You'll work with the one that is responsible for your region. So you'll call them, you'll call the Global Center, which are actually based in Israel. They will let your local shaliach know, and then usually the availability is pretty open for these interviews. Usually doesn't take more than a couple of weeks to get a slot. All adults that will be making Aliyah need to be present. Children typically don't need to be present for these interviews. So this is a contact information to get in touch with the Jewish agency. If you're already at that point, if you're just like real dedicated to getting all your documents together, you're already here. Save this information. If not, you'll be able to get it from us later on. Okay, so once you have interviewed, it takes the Jewish agency like up to 8 weeks to issue your official Aliyah approval. Once you have that, you'll get an email that says, Mazal Tov, you've been approved for Aliyah. It's valid for 12 months, which means you have a 12-month window to actually book your Aliyah flight and arrive in Israel to complete the process, which is done at within Ben Gurion Airport. There's a ministry, there's what's the Hebrew or the English? There's Misrad Pnim, which is the office that takes care of Aliyah. They have a location in Ben Gurion where this is all completed. Um, Yeah. And again, if plans change and you need to renew any documents, like the background check, for instance, that expires after 6 months, the proof of Judaism letter, also something to note, is typically good for like a year. The Jewish agency prefers they're relatively recent. If plans change, you can always renew documents. If there's any question, call us and we can walk you through that. And then final step, once you have that approval, you'll be in touch with our flights department and you'll book your Aliyah flight. All of our flights are through El Al. You can see a list of our flights booked so far for the rest of the year on our website. If you type in flights NBN, should be the first thing that pops up on a Google search. So you can see which flights are still available so far, which ones have been booked. Um, yeah, and we also have flights leaving from all over North America too, so you can see which one is closest to you. So that is it. That is the Aliyah process in a nutshell. And our contact information again, our email is aliyah@nbn.org.il. Our phone number, our main line is 1-866 425 4924. All right, so that was a lot. Do we have any questions? Let's open up the chat. Rivka, do we have any questions that you want to go through? All right, cool. So Rena, what do you think? Oh, wait, we have a question. Yes. Yoram, what kind of question can we help you with today?
Sure. If I buy an apartment,
Mhm.
how does the taxes work? Because I know I was told there's 8% taxes, but I've heard
That
different.
is, yeah, and that is a great question. One that I don't think I can fully answer over the webinar for two reasons. One, it can be a little bit complicated. Two, the best person to ask about the purchase tax is a real estate attorney because they're most familiar with the laws and how to get you the best deal as an ole or as a future ole when buying property. We have a great article on our website that was actually recently updated to reflect the new laws that we can provide you with. Um, yeah, I'm not sure how much to get into it here.
I
Are you
can I can add also, Andy, that we
Mhm.
have webinars on this exact
Right?
topic, on both on renting a home and on buying a
Yeah,
home. So I can share a link to the buying a home. That one sounds more relevant. And
yeah,
it's part of a bigger list of pre-Aliyah planning webinars, and it also includes
right,
things like getting a mortgage, which seems that
right.
it could be relevant. So I'll drop a link for
Definitely.
that in the chat.
Thank you, Rena. That would be
Mhm.
great. Yeah, and you definitely want to get it like from the article or from the webinar, because it'll probably be put much more eloquently, than I could put it. Um, okay. Do you have any other questions, Yaron?
No, I'm looking forward to that other webinar. That'll be great. Thank you.
All right, perfect. We also have a question from Alvin. Hey, Alvin, what kind of questions can we help you with today?
Yeah, we're a little older.
Mhm,
We're in our late 60s, and in terms of getting transitioned for medical coverage,
mhm.
especially if we have pre-existing conditions, where would we find information about that?
Great question. So this is another one where we do have some really great webinars and articles on our site. Additionally, we do have a special needs advisor here that knows the healthcare system like the back of her hand. So we'll send out the links to those webinars and those articles, kind of introducing you to that transition, how healthcare works in Israel because it's quite different from the US and Canadian systems. I would say like it's probably closer to the Canadian system than the US, but um, there's a whole lot of nuances to learn about, and it's best to learn about them before the actual move, in my opinion. There is also a great organization that if you contact us after, I can send you the information for if there are any conditions that need, like continuous care, that needs a bit more research. There's like a medical advocacy group, and I'm
Yeah.
forgetting the name of it off the top of my head right now, but I'll provide it, and they can help you for a fee. They can help you do this research and make sure that there are no gaps in care from when you arrive in Israel, to when you're, like when you're settled in. But really, um, everyone, all Olim Khadashim are registered in advance for health insurance, so that when you land, it goes into place, and that'll cover all of your basic health care needs. So you will never be without basic coverage, if that makes sense.
I've also
Um,
Thank you.
included a link to the healthcare article
Perfect.
in the chat, and we, as Andy mentioned, we have a webinar on healthcare specifically for seniors. So Alvin, I can
Excellent.
put that in the link as well in the chat as well.
Thank
Wonderful,
you for
thank you.
that.
On the issue of age,
Mhm,
we are thinking about Aliyah for my wife's mother, and she is an advanced age,
mhm.
someone in her late 80s.
And
Uh,
she's mo
she's in good health, Baruch Hashem, uh, but that's a whole different ball of wax, I imagine.
For sure. So again, we can help you through every step of the way, through any kind of additional planning or research that needs to be done. And in a case like that, it's definitely where our special needs advisor would be able to help you guys create a plan that's tailored to her needs to make sure that again, that her transition is as smooth as it can be, and she's never without the medical care that she needs.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Okay, looks like Yoram has a question. Hold on a sec. Hey Yoram, what can we help you with?
Just disregard that. I was just clicking on the links.
Ah, okay. All right, cool, no problem. Okay, how about Jeannie?
Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Thank you.
Me too.
I'm going, how do I respond? How do I ask a question? All right, now I understand. Okay, I too am an older person
Mm,
and alone. My entire 4 generations of family live in Israel
mm,
and they are pushing me to come. I have a few questions. I could not I have been there. I could not tolerate the summers. If I make Aliyah, can I spend a little time here and the rest of the time in Israel? What are the rules? I don't know. And then yeah, start with that. I don't know the
sure.
rules.
Yeah, so another great question. So the short answer is yes. You do not need to spend every day of the year in Israel. You are allowed to go back and forth, even right after you make Aliyah. There's no travel restriction keeping you in the country for any amount of time. In fact, a lot of people, especially in your retirement, post-retirement age, that have family in the U.S. or in Israel, or have even younger, have businesses, that they're taking care of in the US and balancing their life in Israel. You can spend, as much time as you need to, want to, going back and forth. The only thing to keep in mind, and this is something we also have some good articles on, and I believe also some webinars going through, is that health insurance in Israel is dependent on residency status. So if you are not spending enough time in Israel, and again, like they look at this holistically, so they're not necessarily just looking at how many days per year you're living in Israel. They're going to look at other things, basically evaluating where your center of life is. But again, in short, if you're not spending enough time per year in Israel, you might lose your residency status, which means you're not going to have the national health coverage,
Privilege
healthcare.
of healthcare. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And if
Okay.
that happens, you can, when you're coming back, you talk to Bituach Lumi, with the tax authority, to see about getting your residency status reinstated. But it's not the end of the world, and we can also help you with that. If you call into our post Ali online, we can help you communicate with Bituach Lumi.
So, can you speak to what sort of benefits come along with Aliyah? And I ask you this because after 30 days, I will lose away from the United States. I'll
Hmm.
lose part of my pension, and
Hmm.
beyond 30 days, will lose my health insurance until I
Hmm.
return.
Right.
So I'm also interested in knowing what I don't mean to come to the country and say I'm entitled, but what are the benefits and what are the entitlements um that come with Aliyah? I have no idea since
Right.
um I'm going to lose something when I leave, and
Right.
will some of that be cushioned at all by a benefit? I'm just trying to
Right.
grab my head around loss and gain, and you know what I mean.
Right. No, for sure. So I'll pull up our page on it, because there are quite a few benefits
And
for
does
Ali
it matter
Kadashim.
if you're old or young? Because now I'm old.
So it does, like, there are some that are going to be more relevant to certain populations. There are some that might be more relevant to those that are younger. Like, for example, one benefit is tuition benefit to go back to school to get, they can cover bachelor's or master's degree. There's a
Wow.
benefit for childcare. If one or both parents are in Ulpan, like doing Hebrew classes, or, things like that. For, other benefits that are more universally, like beneficial, but probably especially to someone who's retirement and going to be bringing assets over, from the
Yes.
US. You have a 10-year tax break on foreign passive and active income. Also, as a note,
Oh,
just
I
because you
like that.
mentioned pension, yeah, pensions are rarely ever, like foreign pensions are rarely ever taxed, in Israel. So let me just figure out my screen sharing again. So I'm
And
I also put
in.
and
I
does
also
it
put an article in the chat,
Excellent.
probably which is the same page that Andy's going to show, and we also have a
Probably.
webinar on rights and benefits that we recorded
oh,
months ago, which is very
okay.
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. So this is our webpage,
Oh,
on
this
all the
is
different benefits.
wonderful.
Yeah, and if you open this one just because it's right here, it has additional links to other relevant topics. So this is a great page. I think it's usually even bookmarked on my browser, and I'm constantly referencing it.
Oh, I
So
like
this is a
this.
great
Okay.
resource. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Something
Wow.
else. Esther had
I want to
raised her
learn
hand.
Hebrew.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the Ulpan benefit, before we get to Esther's question, she's been waiting so patiently. There is an Ulpan benefit. Did I already pass by it? Regardless, the government pays for a 5-month intensive Hebrew course. There are different levels that you can test into. So if this is the first Hebrew that you're learning, you'll start at a more beginner level. If you already have a background, you can test into a higher level. The schedule is pretty intense. It's typically 5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Oh, I
Sometimes
like that.
you can do a more extended one. And then, yeah, so like if you're coming and you're retired or semi-retired, a full-time ulpan is a great way to spend your days
Yeah.
and also meet other people in your community. So there are
Am
lots
I
of.
limited? Am I limited to, I just came back in March.
Mhm.
Am I limited to an area or I can live anywhere? Or how does that work?
Great question. So really, you can live anywhere. There might be certain places that are more like comfortable for
Yes.
Olim Chadashim that are going to have better access to different resources and offices available to new immigrants. And we have a community specialist here as well that you can set a meeting with to look into different communities that check all of your boxes for what you're looking for in a place to live. Also, doing a pilot trip, just kind of along, while we're on the topic, is a great idea if it's feasible to check out these places in real life, and see just how you'd check out, if you're moving to a new neighborhood, or you're moving to a different state, how you'd want to check that out first. Same thing goes for Aliyah. Um,
So
oh,
my intention is to, it isn't that I have to be in a so hurry, but at least from
mhm.
now on, go back every year for a
Mhm.
month and,
Yeah,
and get a feel of what speaks to my soul.
yeah. No, so that it should be fine. Like obviously the Jewish agency is the final authority on who gets to make Aliyah, like from outside of Israel, and they're going to ask you about your plans. So if your plan is, to make your center of life Israel, but still be
Yes.
going back and forth, to the U.S. or even to go on a vacation, like to wherever,
Yes.
it's usually in most cases fine. If the Jewish agency feels that maybe it's not the right time for you to make Aliyah, maybe later on, like when you can dedicate more time and energy to living in Israel, then they'll tell you that. And there's
Just not in
no,
the summer.
yeah, that's for sure.
Even my Israeli family said the summer is
Oof.
tough.
Oh my God. And today was a real hot day. All of my makeup melted off by the time I got to
I
the
would melt. I would melt.
Ooh, yeah. I totally, and I'm from Florida too. You'd think I'd be like used to the heat. It's a whole different thing. Um,
I'm in Northern California, right on the coast.
yeah.
I have a sweater on until the sun burns through.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
All right,
Well, I
let's
really appreciate all this,
mhm.
and I've gotten many of my steps done, but I had no
Awesome.
idea. Everything that I own says Jeannie, but my birth certificate says Jean. My
Ooh,
passport says Jeannie. So I picked up on that, and now I'm gonna have to
good.
change my passport because I can't change
Yes.
the birth certificate.
Right. If you have any issues with it or there's any additional questions, let us know. And we can help you with that. But it's one of these things that it's good to know early on so it doesn't delay
I
you
had no
later.
clue. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had no clue.
All
So this
right.
morning was very valuable on many levels. Thank you all very
Amazing.
much.
My pleasure. All right, let's get to Esther. Hi, Esther. Thank you for waiting so patiently. What can we help you with?
Hi. Well, the most important question you said is regarding my daughter,
Hmm.
who was born in another country, adopted by me as a single parent at age
Hmm.
2. But I had her named then in the Jewish faith by a rabbi.
Hmm.
She has she's 24. She's since been had bat mitzvah, confirmation,
Hmm.
has taught in Hebrew school as a madracha,
Oh, wow.
and she just completed a year of teaching with the Masa program in
Oh,
Israel.
nice. It's a great
Is
program.
she considered Jewish?
That is a big question. So I would say this is probably a better conversation to have on the phone one to one with one of us, and we can actually go through details, more privately, and take a look at relevant documentation, um, or a question to directly ask to the Jewish agency. But I mean, the law of return also covers those who were adopted to Jewish parents, or Jewish, single parent. We would just need to go through everything to make sure that all of the documents are in order and that there's not going to be an issue with the proof of Judaism. So yeah, um, long story short.
She's more Jewish than I am. She convinced me to have my bat mitzvah at age 65.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
really special.
but I
Um,
was born to Jewish parents, so
right. Yeah, so odds are it's fine. But it's better to call one of us and we'll go into things in more detail. Um yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. And
Okay.
also, my question, you answered the one about healthcare. I'm also
Mhm.
an older adult, um, 72.
Mhm.
Um, what about finances? If I have debt, um, will I be rejected or
So good question. So because the Jewish agency is the authority, I can't give a definitive yes or no, but I can say typically no. You wouldn't get rejected for something like that. It's important that if you are going to be moving, and if you do have debts, in the U.S., whether it's just credit card debts, student loans, or anything in between, that you are either doing your own, research and your own plan to kind of like incorporate that into your aliyah finances,
right?
or you work like with a financial advisor. I would suggest, I mean, for anyone planning aliyah, I would say work with an Israeli financial advisor that is used to working with olim and is used to working, like with the Israeli economy and the Israeli system. But it's not something that would keep someone from making aliyah in 9 out of 10 cases, I would say.
And Nefesh B'Nefesh can give me an Israeli financial officer to work with.
So, as a nonprofit, we can't, that's one area that we're not able to assist with or put people directly in touch with, but we do have a list of financial advisors that I'm happy to share. And those, the financial advisors on this list, I think a couple might be Olim themselves. And you can choose which one to work with and to reach out to. There's also a couple really great free resources that I would suggest checking out for any kind of aliyah financial planning, whatever kind of background that you're coming from, whether you're making aliyah alone, whether you're making aliyah with a family. I would say check out Blue and White Finance. Maybe we can drop a link to their site in the chat. And specifically, the Aliyah budget calculator that Nefesh B'Nefesh and Blue and White Finance made not too long ago. It's really great because it's dynamic. You can change all of the different variables to reflect your personal situation. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure there's an option in there if you're making Aliyah with any kind of debt, where in the country are you living? Are you going to be living, in a more expensive area, like Tel Aviv, like the center? Are you going to be living up north, down south? Um, are you coming with children? Are you coming with any secondary sources of income? You're going to rent? You're going to buy a house? How many times a week do you get takeout? Like there's a section for everything, and it gives you a really good idea of your first year, in terms of your aliyah budget, what costs like to expect, and also the startup costs for moving as well, depending on what answers that you put. So definitely check that out.
And it does the same thing um, apply with international movers that you have might have a list
Yeah,
that you
we
can,
do. We do have
okay,
a pretty comprehensive list.
that's
Yeah,
wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
my pleasure. Thanks for your
Appreciate your time
questions.
and
Of
look
course.
forward to being there. Thank you.
Yay! Awesome. Any other questions? Right, not seeing any hands. Okay. So then I think we'll wrap up this webinar and I'll put up our contact information again just so everyone can take it down if they didn't before. 1 second. If you can tell, I'm not the best at this. There we go. So again, this is all of our contact information at the Aliyah Engagement Center. We are helping you get started and answering any and all questions under the sun. Our hotline's 1-866-425-4924. Our WhatsApp is 1-551-800-5414. And our email is aliyah@nbn.org.il. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bless you, Rivka. Thank you, Rena. And I think we're done for the day, yeah? Okay, cool. Thanks for coming, everyone.